developing countries.
Those are the visuals that we're getting of Prime Minister Modi. Now, he, of course, is leaving for the G20 summit. In fact, Prime Minister Modi will be traveling to Bali to attend the two-day-long G20 summit. In fact, talking about the itinerary, the Prime Minister has around 20 engagements lined up within 45 hours, including several bilateral meetings with other world leaders and a community event to connect with the Indian diaspora in Indonesia. So those are the visuals that we're getting exclusively on Republic, where he, of course, is leaving to travel to Bali for the G20 summit, which is a two-day event. In fact, Foreign Secretary Vinay Quatra said that the Prime Minister will participate in 3 key sessions, including the food and energy security, digital transformation and health. The Prime Minister, of course, will join other leaders from around the globe in discussing several issues, including the state of the global economy, issues relating to energy, environment, agriculture, health and digital transformation. Well, for more on this, we're joined in by Samiksha, our principal correspondent from the Mumbai newsroom. Samiksha, we're of course getting those visuals of Prime Minister Modi leaving for the G20 summit, but what more can you tell us about the fact that he's going to be attending the two-day-long G20 summit?
Well, absolutely, Nivedna. So this is going to be a very, very important key summit, given the fact that it comes in the backdrop of several global headwinds. One, of course, being the geopolitical tensions, the Russia-Ukraine conflict, which continues to rage, and also the fact that it's going to be the first in-person meet between Xi and Biden since Biden took over. Remember, there's been completely strained ties between China and US all this while, so it's going to be very interesting to see when that in-person meet happens between Xi Jinping and President Biden. Also, the very fact that it also comes in the backdrop of the global recession fears. Remember, inflation fears are something that has it has spiraled across the world. India's inflation rate is very much in the target range, but when we talk about the global superpower, US as well, that is facing record inflation rates. Not just the US, in fact, there are countries across the board, they are facing inflation pressure. So it remains to be seen what really comes out of this summit on the economic front. Also, this summit comes in the backdrop of Russia's nuke threat, North Korea's nuke threat, and the key focus, of course, will also be on global food and energy crisis. And also, just to put this into context, once again, that it's going to be very crucial for India for the very fact that India will take over the mantle for hosting the G20 in 2023. So very interesting to watch out for as to what really comes out of it. But the key focus, of course, will be the geopolitical tensions, how the countries need to come together in the post-pandemic era when people are still struggling to come out of it, and the countries, of course, reeling in the backdrop of record inflation.
Right. We also understand that the Prime Minister will be participating in 3 key sessions, including food and energy security, digital transformation and health. What more can you tell us on that front?
Well, that's right, Nivedna. So those will be the 3 key sessions, as you mentioned. One, of course, being the food and energy security. Second, the digital transformation. And third, of course, the Russia-Ukraine. In fact, the sessions that will focus on food and energy security and digital transformation. Now, talking about the bilaterals that are lined up, yes, Prime Minister Modi will hold bilaterals with at least 10 global leaders. As I just mentioned just a short while back, India will also be taking over the G20 presidency mantle. So from that front, it's very important for India. We also understand that there is a bilateral that could also happen between UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak as well as Prime Minister Modi. And in this particular summit, India is also expected to steer the G20 agenda for 2023. So yes, a host of issues that will be the focus of attention. But one, of course, being that India is all set to take over the G20 presidency mantle in 2023, Nivedna.
Right. As you're also pointing out, Samiksha, at the closing ceremony of the summit, of course, Indonesia will be handing over the G20 presidency to India for, the 1-year period. So, of course, Prime Minister will be, utilizing this opportunity at the Bali summit to invite leaders to India's G20 summit, which, of course, is a moment of pride for the country.
Well, absolutely, Nivedna. And, like I mentioned, the G20 agenda for 2023 will be very much set in the tone and tenor of the Prime Minister in his address that he's going to give in this summit. One, of course, being the food and energy security, digital transformation push. Also, the climate change factor is also going to be the center of focus in this bilaterals and the address of Prime Minister Modi. Digital evolution is also another front that will be focused on. So yes, several key factors that will be discussed in this particular summit. Just to put this all together, once again, the summit comes in the backdrop of the geopolitical tensions, which has also spiraled in the global markets. There have been markets that have, that have been impacted as a result of geopolitical tensions. Also, the very fact that the China and U.S. Ties remain strained, and it's going to be the first in-person meet that will happen between President President Biden and Xi Jinping since Biden took over the reins as the U.S. president. Also important to note here that there are several lingering fears over global recession, given the fact that several countries are facing record inflation, not just the US but UK. India, of course, there are lingering fears as to how to keep that inflation very much in the target range. So it is across the board, so that global, what the measures that can be taken to tackle that global recession fear is also very much on the anvil. Nivedna.
All right. Thank you, Samiksha, for getting us all those details. Like Samiksha was also, of course, pointing out, Prime Minister Modi is leaving for the G20 summit. Now, of course, she also told us about the 3 key sessions as well, which will, of course, focus on food and energy security, digital transformation and health. The Prime Minister, of course, will also join other leaders from around the globe in discussing several issues. Like Samiksha was also pointing out, with the fact that the summit will also be attended by Chinese President Jinping, US President Joe Biden and British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, and of course French President Emmanuel Macron, among others. We'll continue to track that particular story, but moving on to more breaking news that's coming in at the moment.